China had pledged not to militarize its islands in the South China Sea. So why has China deployed surface-to-air missile batteries, and why is it constructing military?
China's diplomacy and military budget dominate the questions from foreign reporters, with South China Sea tensions under the spotlight.
What threat is China guarding against?
军事化这个词儿炒得挺唬人的。
The issue of militarization has been hotted up and misrepresented. It is a sort of language hegemony. Some reports try to blame China for affecting freedom of navigation and undermining the stability of this region. Such practice misrepresents the situation. Talking about militarization, if we look at those advanced ships and aircraft going in and out of the South China Sea, most of them are from the U.S. The U.S. has deployed as much as 70% of its naval forces to Asia. Defensibility is not equivalent to militarization.
When answering a question on China's rising military budget, Fu said the sensationalization from the U.S. side of the South China Sea issues is a result of the Pentagon's attempt to convince Washington of the need for a bigger military budget. She said China's rise in military spending is in accordance with the needs of national defense and fiscal revenue conditions.
今年中国
This year, the Chinese military budget will continue to increase, but the increase will be smaller compared with last year. That will be around 7 to 8%.
Fu also offered some frank remarks on China's Russia policy. She said that Sino-Russian relations are the most positive and stable bilateral ties among what she calls the trilateral relations between Beijing, Washington, and Moscow.
俄罗斯是我们最大的邻国。
Russia is our biggest neighbor, and China and Russia relations are currently at their best period in history. My impression is that, compared with dialogue between China and other countries, China and Russia did not need to spend much time discussing or debating about our differences, and we will not exert pressure on the other side, so we can focus all our attention on cooperation.
But the press conference was not just about foreign and military policies. As China enters the annual political session, questions from domestic reporters were mostly focused on economy and reforms. Last year, the country registered the lowest GDP growth in a quarter of a century, though officials say it's still within the target.
人大期间呢，应该说这个“十三五”规划是。
During this year's annual sessions, the 13th five-year plan is one of the most discussed topics. Considering that, we will invite the Chief of National Development and Reform Commission, Xu Xiaoshi, to hold the first press conference of this year's NPC on Sunday. He's very familiar with the five-year plan, so please pay attention.
The National People's Congress is the highest organ of state power in China, and this year, economy is likely to dominate the agenda. In the next 2 weeks, deputies from across the country will cast their votes to decide China's next move. Peng, CCTV, Beijing.